Hi everybody, welcome to the 5th episode of the Herald Cooking Masterclass series. Today we bring you some sugar rush into your kitchen with some Halloween-inspired macarons. We hope you're all prepped and ready to cook along with us. Something really exciting that I'd like to mention is that we've got some new faces joining us today. We've got Chef Ayanda and Chef Bernice, who will be hosting today's session. They're really excited and looking forward to today's masterclass. From the Herald side, a big thank you to Checkers, a big thank you to Capsicum Culinary Studio, and of course to Three Peaks Wine. Don't forget, we do have a Three Peaks Wine competition where 20 lucky participants stand a chance of winning a bottle of Three Peaks Wine and a chef branded apron. Let's move over to the kitchen. Chefs, over to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chef Ayanda, and today I'm here with my colleague, Chef Bernice, and we're going to show you how to make some classic French macarons. So I'm going to hand over to Chef Bernice, who's then going to take you from beginning to end of how you produce a good quality macaron.
Thank you so much, Chef Ayanda. So let's look at the basics. So Chef Ayanda mentioned that we are going to make a French macaron. So I see some of our questions have already come through saying, what's the difference between a macaron and a macaroon? So the basic difference just there is that the one is almond-based, and your macaron with a double O would be made with coconut. And so that's the difference. And the one is a little bit more peaked, so a coconut-based one, whereas our macaron would be our traditional little shell over there, and we are going to sandwich, and it is a little cookie. All right, so let's go and look at the ingredients that we will be needing to make this French macaron. So we will need caster sugar, 50 grams. We will need 150 grams of icing sugar, and we will need 75 grams of ground almonds. And you'll be able to get it in the banking aisle, and it's nice and fine. But you can also process your own with a food processor. So you kind of will need a little goodie like this that will process it for you. And then last but not least, the item that makes it rise and give it its lift is our trusty eggs. Right, and we're going to need 2 for this, and we're not going to use the whole egg, we're only going to use the egg white. Right, so let's get started. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. Chef, ready. All right. So we're going to need to separate, and so there's various ways that we can separate it, but the trusty hand is the easier one. So 2 containers to separate our yolk from our white. And I just use the shell to kind of give it, so we don't mess it up. Right. And I'm not going to use the yolk, but waste not, want not, we can make lemon curd with it, so that's great. Okay, so after I've now separated my white from my yolk, we need to now start the process. So I'm going to walk you through the process. So we're going to need a food processor, as I mentioned before. And so in my food processor, I'm going to put my powdered icing sugar, and I'm going to put my ground almonds together, and I'm going to blitz it. So the purpose behind blitzing these 2 items together is that you have a very nice fine flour. If you were to just take the almonds and process it and get it nice and fine, you'll find that you'll be making almond butter. And I don't think we want almond butter, but that's how we would do it. And so the icing sugar now prevents the item from caking and becoming a butter. And so it's kind of like an anti-caking agent. Right, so before I do that, what we need to do is get these 2 ingredients, my caster sugar and my egg whites, and we're going to make a French typical meringue. And so the French meringue is the most easy to make, but I'm going to show you something that is so easy to do and to make flop-proof meringues. Right, so what we want to do is take half the amount of sugar and add it right in the beginning stages. So open my machine, so I'm going to add all of my white, and then I'm going to add half of the caster sugar from the beginning process. And then the other half, I'm going to add it gradually. So it's going to form a foam, and you'll see we call it the foaming stage. And that is your cue to start adding small amounts, tablespoons or teaspoons of the sugar gradually in. Don't be too hasty, so add it as you're going along. Then what we are going to look for is this meringue transforming to this beautiful, thick, glossy mix that makes a peak when I hold it. And then I'm going to take you to the next step where we're going to grind this up until it's a nice fine powder, and then I'm going to merge the two together. But before we do the merger, we're going to choose our flavoring. So I've opted for vanilla, it's the classic, and then we can also opt for our colors. So because it's Halloween inspired, let's go with the pumpkin flavor, because Chef Ayanda is going to show you guys a little bit later how to make a pumpkin spice white chocolate buttercream. Right, let's get going. So I'm going to put my mixer on now. Yeah, sure.
If I were to put all that sugar in there,
yes.
what
Okay.
would happen to the egg yolk?
Huh. Very good question. So if I were to do that, you'll find that the meringue itself will be not holding to the right peak that I want. And so the egg protein needs to adjust to taking up the sugar. If I add all of the sugar at once, it kind of spits it back at you. And so you kind of have the most common situation that we have is beading taking place, where it pushes out the moisture and you're not going to get the right peak. And so we need to add the sugar because it's also a stabilizing component to the protein. So good question. Right. Are we good? Do we have any other questions from our viewers? No, sure they pop up. Right, let's get going. All right, so I'm going to mix now. Okay. Okay, so what I want to show you guys, I'm going to stop my mixer, and I'm going to show you guys at this stage where you need to identify by adding your sugar now more steadily. So it's going to look like this. So it's a little bit foamy, right? And that's your cue to start adding a little bit more sugar. Okay, so bowl in, mix it down, and we're going to continue. All right, so one thing that I want to show you guys now is to identify the right stage, because a lot of you might say, but how do I know that the meringue is at the right stage? When must I stop? And so, trust me. So what I'm looking for is it's gone, and I'm going to take my whip, and so if it's doing this where it's just drooping, it is soft. It's not going to hold the peak, and we're not being able to pop the cookie at the end of the day. So we're going to need to take it a little bit further to the point that when I mix and it stays in this beautiful peak. All right. So we're going to go again. Mixer on. All right, so we now at the stage that, ta-da, we are at the right stage. Okay, so now I've got that, and I need to still process my nuts and my icing sugar. So let's quickly get that out of the way so we can carry on. Yes.
If I don't have a machine at home and I want to get to the same peak and achieve the same
Yes.
macaron, what would I do?
You can use a normal hand beater. It will do the job really well. You even get the brawn mixers that have the whip attachment, and you can do that. If you feel really enthusiastic about it, you can really do elbow grease and do that. The only thing is the machine will beat it at a much faster resolution than what you can, and so you're not going to get as stable meringue as what you would do with a machine. So my advice is definitely to either hand mix it or get a friend, go to a friend, and then mix that way. All right, so let's quickly do the nuts. So I'm going to pop it now in. You wouldn't mind, thank you. So I'm going to put the machine on and I'm going to blitz it. I'm going to blitz it a little bit and until this is all mixed together and it's nice and fine.
Once again, if I don't have one of these fancy machines, what can I do?
Okay, good question as well. So with our health conscious people out there, most of us have a food processor to make smoothies. Those are great as well to use. If you don't, you're going to go through the old-fashioned process of just sieving through your icing shower, excuse me, all sugar-coated. But you would use your sieve and you would sieve the two ingredients together and make sure that it's nice and fine, like a fine flour, if I could put it that way. So it might take 2 or 3 times of sieving it, but I would recommend that would give you the same result as what the machine would. It's much faster. Okay, let's get going. Great stuff. So we're done with our mixer, and this is what we have. So we have a nice mixture. It kind of looks like this. All right, can you guys see? Yeah. All right, so my recommendation is if you want to color, now is the good time to add your flavoring of choice as well as your color. You can also opt for putting in flavor rather than the buttercream and staying away from flavoring the macaron. So the option that I chose today with the French macaron, it gives you the opportunity to color it. There's lots of recipes out there that you'll see where they take the almonds, the sugar, and they add an egg white to it and they make a paste. And so that's a great one. And you'll probably be able to get a pure white looking macaron. They will color, but if you want to do a recipe where it's the pure snow white, that's the one that you would use. And then there's obviously the Italian one, and I opted for not doing that one because not everybody has a candy thermometer or is very wise and skilled in candy making. And so therefore you'll need a sugar thermometer, and that will read the sugar that you will make with a syrup, and pour it into your whipped egg whites, and then you'll get this, but it's very stable. And so it's the stablest out of the options that you can get. And then you get a combination of French and Italian in terms of making it. But again, they all have their own pitfalls. So I'm showing you a little bit ways to not get there, but still get the correct outcome. Right, so I'm going to put some color. Yes, do we have a question? Yes.
From Moira, I hope I said that.
Hi, Moira.
Right. If egg white needs to soften on adding the sugar, how can you? So it stops to soften as you're adding the sugar, how can you then?
Right. So normally that would be a case of you adding your sugar too quickly. So that was one of the pitfalls where I'm saying that, if you did that, the recommendation is to keep whipping, and should it still remain slightly soft, put in a quarter of the egg white, raw egg white back in, and keep on mixing, and that will balance out, and your ratio will be back to where you wanted. Your cookie might rise a little bit more than what you want, but you'll still get the end result. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to just use a little bit of vanilla essence, and I like to use the lid as a measurement. So You can use 5 mils, but this is probably about 2.5 for the ratio that I've got. So I'm just going to chuck it straight in. And I'm going to make a orange because of our Halloween theme. So I'm going to need 2 base colors, which is our primary colors. So we're going to use red and we're going to use yellow. And we're not going to just add them together because then we're not going to get our orange color. So what we need to do with this is we need to first start with a high amount of the yellow, make it as bright as what you can, and then only a few drops of the red, and that will bring our orange. Right, so I've got a rubber spatula, and so I first want to just incorporate the flavor. Right, and I'm going to proceed again with color. So here's another tip that a lot of people don't know. Rather go with small amounts first, as opposed to putting the big glug in and you can't fix it. You can't take the color away. Once it's in there and it's gonna stay. All right, so let's do play along. There we go, nice. So I start with a couple of drops and I mix it through. So if I feel that it's too light, I can always just add, but I can't take away.
Question, Jackie. So which one of these 2 colors do you use? So is gel a better option or is this perfectly fine?
You know what, my personal opinion, I love the powder colors and I love the gel, just for the reason that if you use this liquid base, it does have water. It's a water-based item, and so you tend to sometimes throw out your ratio. Where the gel and the powder, it doesn't affect your consistency at all of what you're making, and so it's a great option. You just need to be aware that whether you use gel, it's normally concentrated color, and so therefore very small amount. Use a toothpick, dip it in the color, and then streak it through your meringue, and you'll be able to get the color that you want. Powders, again, start with a muted color, and then you can always add as you go along. Yep. No problem. These you will just be able to get from your local checkers, and so that's easy available where you would probably make your cupcakes, etc. And so those are the base colors. You will have to go to a specialized store, baking store, that will be able to give you the gels and etc. So what I'm doing up here, so you guys hopefully can see, and I'm mixing through, and eventually it's going to give me orange. Okay, and at this stage, you can beat it quite aggressively. You don't need to be gentle with it. It's only gently when we start mixing in the almonds. All right. Okay, get the blade out. So should you have this, be careful, it's a blade, and so it's one of our sharp tools. Thank you, Chef A. So again, some recipes out there tell you to put half of it in, fold it in. You know what? With a recipe that I've given on the site, you can just go ahead by mixing it all in. And you would mix from the outside in a figure of 8. And your mixture will look very rough looking in the beginning, bits and pieces. And we're just going to move it gently around until it resembles lava. So the lava, so that when you tilt your bowl, it needs to run like thick lava. Do we have any questions yet? They're all following me. Fantastic.
Lumpy, but it will come together.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And so
fear not.
So fear not. So you will have the mixture, as you are mixing it, it will look slightly aerated, very aerated, and smooth at the same time. And you can kind of see it running, but it's not running at the pace that I want yet. And so all I need to do is just continue mixing a little bit. Now there's a downside to over mixing. So that's again another pitfall. And that's why a lot of people are very hesitant to make this very delicate cookie. If you over mix it, you will have difficulty putting it in your piping bag and able to pipe it. The mixture will just pour out. You won't be able to get the nice shape that you want. So do be careful. Your telltale there is that lava-like consistency. If you've never seen lava, nowadays we've got awesome technology, so just Google it. Google it. You know what? You'll probably be able to ask your nephew, your niece that watches so many cartoons, animations, and they'll probably be able to tell you quickly, watch Ben 10 or watch. Or National Geographic, that's a better one. Okay, so we now at the consistency where I don't want to kind of like, yeah, it's running like lava. Fabulous. All right, and it's changed in terms of what it will look like. So to help me to get this mixture, because I've only got 2 hands, into a piping bag, I'm going to use a jug, but you can use a glass as well. And so Chef A, if you wouldn't mind, thank you, my assistant. So we're going to use a piping bag that you'll also get at Checkers. They are a little bit smaller. You get the silicone ones as well. And then we're going to go with a plain tip. And that's going to be able to get the nice round shape. Should you not have this or not able to get it, a Ziploc bag works just as well. So sorry for the scuffle noise, guys. And then just pop it over. All right. And we're going to put it in. And you can see it kind of does a nice little flow. It shouldn't run any faster than this. If it does, you are in trouble. Okay. Right. So that being done, Jeffy, sorry. You are going to need to have a baking tray that is lined. Just going to step out one moment to get my sheet. Ta-da! Instant TV. And so we are very fortunate. So we've got Macaron Mat. So it's a slip-proof mat, and it's already got the little stencil detailed for you. And you'll be able to also, again, get that at any specialized baking shop. You can use parchment baking paper. They will do the same. The only thing is you might have difficulty taking off the cookie. All right.
You mentioned using baking paper or anything like
yes.
That. Should people then spray and cook?
No spray and cook. No spray and cook. Okay. Chef Ayanda, to be honest with you, egg white and fat, they don't mix. So as soon as you spray and cook the sheet, immediately it doesn't have grip. It doesn't have the ability to hold. And so one of the other things that we need to do with this type of cookie is kind of smack down the tray to form a beautiful foot, and then we're going to set it aside until it makes a little film on the outside cap. All right, so let's get going. So another thing is the positioning of your hand when you're piping. It's crucial. Should you pipe at a different angle, the macaron's going to tell you that after it's been baked. It kind of like gives you away. So what we want to do is take the bag, we're going to twist it, and you're going to hold it between your thumb and your index finger, and that will be able to give you nice pressure. And so what we're going to do is 90 degrees. So we're going to hold it all the way upright onto our tray. So we're going to not touch the surface. We're going to push. We're going to stop. We're going to lift. Space. Push. Stop. Lift. Push. Stop. Lift. And I want to leave enough space so that the cookie can expand, and you'll see now after we have created the foot that it will expand a little bit as it spreads, and that's because of the 2 types of sugars that we've added there. The icing sugar helps with the spread, the caster sugar helps with the stabilization. Science, I know, it's so exciting. I get very excited about baking. And you'll notice that I'm piping, that I match them up. So I need to make sure that, for example, I've got 2 of the similar size. So these will match up, because we are going to make a sandwich cookie. There's no point in having an uneven number unless one for the thumb. Right. So I'm just going a little bit faster than the waste not, want not. Right. Thank you, Chef. Okay, so now please don't get a fright. I'm going to bang the tray slightly. All right, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, Halloween. All right, and so what you've now done is you've created a foot at the bottom, so it's smack down, it's got the foot so that it will have an even rise. And so what you'll see now, ooh, it's nice and glossy. So the other thing that we are going to now do as another test is this needs to stand for approximately anywhere from about 20 to 30 minutes. And then I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to test it. So this glossy is going to disappear and it's going to be matte. And then I will be able to touch it and my finger will be macaron free. And at that time, I've already preheated my oven at 150 degrees, fan assist, to be able to do this. And it bakes for approximately anywhere from about 10, 12 minutes, depending on the size. So the smaller ones will be done within 10 minutes. The slightly larger ones will take a few more minutes. And so I've put the two together, but I will test the smaller ones on the outer edge and then remove them and continue just with the slightly larger ones. We're good? And I'm going to hand over now to Chef Ayanda that will be showing you guys how to make this awesome filling.
Thank you so much. So before I let you go, just a quick one. You
Yes.
mentioned fan-assisted oven.
Yes.
So if I at home don't have one of those, I have to have an oven that just has all the other heat settings, but I don't quite have the convection that helps
Yes.
with the air movement.
Yes.
Will it work? Does it work?
It does work. The only thing is that you will find that the cookie will dry out a lot faster, so it will be crisp. It won't have the chewy center, and then also it will brown as opposed to leaving just the color there. The fan assist really helps to distribute the heat as well as then leave the color still behind, and so it's really important that you do. If you intend in using, perhaps color it really dark, so a really bright blue, a really bright, so that it will dullen slightly as you go, but you won't lose the color as a whole. What you can do as well with those type of ovens is just go 10 degrees less. I would reckon to do that, and that might just assist. And then what you can do as well is just vent. So open your oven the last few minutes, just to get some of the heat out. Your cookie might fall a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, welcome.
All right.
Right.
Righty, so what I'm going to show you is how to do the pumpkin flavored with cinnamon spice filling. And with the filling, we're going to use pretty simple ingredients. So we've got some icing sugar over here. We've got some white chocolate over there. It's better to use a good quality white chocolate. It's just going to give you a better result. So we're talking, I know it's a little expensive. We're talking things like Lindt. They just got a better consistency when you melt it off. All right. Then we've got the pumpkin that will look like this when we're done with it. I just want to show you real quick. Once it's nice and spiced, that's what you will have. Okay, so it darkens a little bit in color. Then I'll show you exactly what the spice mix is. Let's just pull that out. So we've got a bit of cinnamon. We've got some nutmeg. We've got here some ginger. Everything is ground, powder form. Okay, so we've got some ginger over here. Then we've got, I add a little bit of brown sugar just to give it a little sweetness. It also helps to caramelize everything nice and sort of brown, giving it this beautiful color. But don't add too much because you've got a whole lot of icing sugar that's going to go into this. So, and chocolate. Let's not forget the chocolate. Okay, so if you're not really into a super sweet product, I would suggest maybe then leave it out. All right. Then we've also got some cloves. So what I did is I had whole cloves. You can get those almost anywhere now. Any supermarket will have them. Or maybe some spice specialists, really any place. And what we did is to just grind it up. We used pestle and we just kind of grinded that up. And that's what it looks like there. Okay, so thank you, Chef Bernice. I need one of those trays, please. I'm just going to show you what you would do and how you would get this done. So you just get yourself a pumpkin. You can get a whole pumpkin, already diced up pumpkin, whatever works for you. And you're just going to toss this into a tray. Measurement-wise, it's up to you in terms of how robust you want the flavors to be. So if you really are into that cinnamon flavor, into that nutmeg flavor, you're really going to go a little crazy with the spices. But for today, just going to show you a little bit of cinnamon. So I'm taking about a pinch or two. Just sprinkling that on. So the main elements that you really want to go a little bit hectic with are the cinnamon itself and the ginger. Yeah, so I'm going to go with 2 for those 2.
Okay, so why do you say that, Chef?
It's just going to bring out the flavor of the pumpkin a whole lot more. It kind of complements the pumpkin a little better.
I hear you.
So the two together kind of just pop up that flavor.
And let's say if I don't like the flavors of pumpkin,
Yes.
can I use butternut or squash or anything in
You
that
can.
line?
I would say more butternut would work better. The others have a little more moisture content, and we'll talk about that a little later, how that moisture content can have an effect on your whole filling as a whole. It kind of moistens it, and you end up with something that doesn't pipe so well or has a bit too much moisture, and then that plays on your whole macaron. Okay. So it's better to maybe go for pumpkin that's a little bit drier and butternut, which can be a great substitute as well. Okay, sorry. So the next thing there, if you want the sugar, just a little sprinkle. And we've got the cloves. Again, just a little. At this point in time, you could then add also a little bit of butter just for the oven mixing or the cooking in the oven so it doesn't stick to your tray or to your pan. So we'll pop it in. And the end, magic, you'll end up with that. Now, to mush it up and to get it nice and soft, all you want to do is to get a fork. If you don't have one of those mashers, a masher would work. But if you don't have one of those, you can just take a fork, mash it up nicely, and before you go and sieve it out, pop it back into the oven just to dry it a little bit more, and then take your sieve. We use drum sieves, but whatever sieve you have will work perfectly, and you just push it through that to get some of those stringy bits out. That will also play on the end or the final product. Okay. So once that's done, you'll have that beautiful product. The next thing we want to do now is to melt our chocolate. So let's just set up everything real quick. Okay. So safety first. Pull that to the side. May I get my water, please? A pot of water. Let's try one of these. Perfect. So all I have over here is just a small pot of water. We're going to bring that up to a boil. And what you're going to do is to get yourself a nice glass or a stainless steel bowl, and you're going to pop that on top. This is just going to help you to do the melting without really damaging your chocolate, all right? Particularly if you were to use a chocolate that's got cocoa butter in it or anything like that, they tend to seize if too much heat is applied at the same time. Okay, you can use a microwave. You can pop this in a microwave, but I would suggest that you do it in small increments of maybe 30 seconds or a minute at a time, just so that it doesn't seize up before you're ready to use it. But for the purposes of today, we're just going to use one of these. We're going to pop it in there quickly. The next thing we're going to do is to get the chocolate in. I like to break it up a little. I find that it melts quicker. Maybe it doesn't. But there we go. You just pop it in there. Thank you, Chef. I have a little spatula somewhere over there. Thank you. There we go. Dankie baie. Then, a little patience. Let's get in there. While that's happening, you could always start with this process now. So the next process is to take a little bit of butter, and you want it to be at room temperature, right? You want it to be nice and soft so that it creams better. So you're going to pop that butter in here into your mixer, into your bowl, whatever it is you are working with. Yes.
Can I use any other type of fat when you're making this filling? Or is it better to use butter?
Better to use butter. Better to use butter. It just holds better at the end, and with all the flavors you're about to put in, it will just hold a whole lot better if you use butter. Okay. I guess you could use wooden spoon, yes, which is sort of a margarine but a butter consistency, so that would work as well. But be specific with buying products that are sort of made for baking because they've been stabilized to take some of the heat and the processes we apply when you bake. Yeah, baking this, yeah. So there we go. Dankie baie. Sugar. Now I'm going to add this sugar, and we're going to start creaming. Okay, so creaming is just you trying to blend. Thank you, sorry. You're going to try and blend all of these ingredients together, sort of melting, blending, if I can put it that way, this to that, so that you no longer have the feel of the sugar in your hands, right? So I'm using a K beater to start off with, because sometimes it's still a bit hard for your balloon whisk. So start with this. And then once it gets nice and soft, you can then switch over to your to your balloon whisk. I'm only adding this. I'm adding the sugar in small quantities just so that it doesn't poof at you and create this cloud of icing sugar. All right, so I'm going to go back and cream this a little more. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so at this point in time, sometimes you find that the rest of the ingredients start sticking to the side of the bowl and it's kind of whisking nothing. So you just scoop it back to the center and do it again. There we go. Okay. Just want to pause to show you where we are now in terms of the chocolate, nicely melted, and that's what you're looking for. The next thing I want to do is to take my cream and add it to this. So there we go. Okay, so with the cream, there's no specific time to add it. You could have done it in the beginning, you could have done it in the middle. Just gonna pop it back here so everything blends up to the same heat again, and that's about it. Once that comes together, you're gonna take this product and blend it to this product. And you wanna do it in a steady treacle, just so that everything blends properly. Like I said, it likes to stick to the sides. So if I kind of treacle it in, it has enough time to pick up everything and blend it together. All right, so let's just give this a chance to blend together here. I have a small spoon there, please, if you wouldn't mind. Sure. Thank you very much. No problem. Yes. She's just asking that should the sugar be a granulated sugar? So I just quickly want to find out for this mixture. If it is for this mixture, okay, or if it is for the macaron. All right. Just be a little bit more specific so that we can assist you best. Right, everything is nice and blended. So let's show you that now. Just gonna pop that down, and there you go. All right, a little bit hot, so be careful. This process here is what takes the longest. So please be patient, we're almost there. And it does take a lot of sugar. You'll see that the ratio to icing sugar to butter is quite a lot. So don't panic about that. So just kind of on what Bernice had asked is the number sugar fine. So just to take back, so if you're making the buttercream filling, we kind of want to have a very fine sugar so that it dissolves really quickly and absorbs everything else. So if we were to have granulated sugar, it won't dissolve fast enough and you'll have this gritty feel on your tongue. Yeah. Whereas if we were to make the macaron, and it would have the caster sugar, it really does matter because we're going to add it into the meringue. We want that fine sugar to dissolve in the protein very quickly and stabilize it, but also help it to aerate. Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Right, we are almost there. Okay, so let's just see what's happening here. All right, as I'm mixing, I'm noticing here, sometimes it starts to make fine little crumbs, right? As if it's making a crummy paste. Okay, you could always just add a little bit more butter just to balance that out a little bit. Okay, but at this point in time, we're almost there, and I'll show you now what it looks like on my end and what I'm talking about that little bit of crumbing. Let's just open that up.
Can I quickly show them
Yeah,
it looks like?
sure.
So what we've got now is exactly that, and it's now roasted. We've speeded up the process a little bit, and so I'm touching it, and my finger comes free. So it makes a nice little shape, and it's flattened a little bit. So I'm going to put it in my oven, and while she's finishing up, hopefully we'll have something.
Okay. Let's just give you some space.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, so let's just show them what I'm talking about here. Okay, so it's sort of looking like, yeah, crumbly. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to just fix this quickly and let you know what's happening. Yeah, I'm going to add that directly. Yeah. Yeah. So just letting them know at home how they could fix it should they find that they have issues. Okay, alrighty, so treacle it in like we spoke about. We get in there. Righty. Okay, it's just twisty.
Are you there?
We are almost.
We are there. That looks
Look
really
at that.
good. And so, Chef Ayanda, I know that we have prepared 3 different fillings, but with one base.
Yes.
And so we have taken some licorice, and so I know that we are Halloween inspired.
Yes.
So we like to take the black licorice, which also getting the sweet owl. And what we do is take a little bit of water, just enough to cover, and bring it to the boil until it softens. And then you would puree, pass it through a sieve, and then you would incorporate it once the mixture is cooled down. Then you have a licorice flavored.
We actually have one to show them if they wanted to see consistency right over there. Awesome.
So, listen, it doesn't look great.
No, it doesn't.
I do have to confess that it rather looks
muddy.
Yes, we will go with muddy. We will go with muddy. Yes.
But it tastes amazing.
Yes.
It tastes amazing.
And so to take this muddy look and make it look a lot more presentable, what we've done is we've taken hundreds and thousands.
Yeah.
And we have filled our one macaron, and then we roll it through the hundreds and thousands. And so from our muddy look, we have something that looks more like trick or treating.
Okay.
Right.
And there was what other flavor did we do? Candy floss as well. We also did a candy floss flavor. Pretty much sticking to the base, which is this flavor. And we took some candy floss and kind of stuck it to the side of the macaron. And what happens is that it kind of, if you leave it out too long, it kind of sticks to it and makes this pretty rainbow, but it's not quite candy floss anymore. All right. So just to go back to this mixture, because now I'm going to show you the finished product. With this mixture here, we spoke about earlier using a balloon whisk just to fluff it up a little bit more. It gives a little more air to the product and fluffs it up a little bit, so that's perfect. And once you're done with that, you will take your cooled pumpkin or butternut, if that's the case, and you're going to nicely spoon it into this mixture to the consistency that you would like it. So it will change color. It will start going a little bit orange yellow in the beginning, and the more you add, of course, the more color changes, but the more you add also, the more the flavor changes. So you will decide how you want it to be, and once you're done, you will end up with something that looks like this. Should you find that the moisture in the butternut or the pumpkin kind of split your mixture, you could take a little bit more icing sugar and just add it to the finished product to balance it out again. Once you have that, you'll be able to pipe it through and make whatever flavor you want. So, yes, Chef Bernice.
There's quite a few of our viewers that saying they're getting lost behind.
Okay.
Going a little bit
Too fast. No problem.
And they want us to just slow down a
No
little bit.
problem. So let's do that.
So let's do that again.
Let's do that again. Alrighty. So let's just maybe get rid of some of these things and we can talk them through it. All right. So step one was to take, we had some cream and you have chocolate. Step one was to put them into your bowl and heat them up over a double boiler. So we call this a double boiler, where you've got a little bit of water at the bottom and a gentle steam that kind of heats up your product. That's going to allow the chocolate to melt without seizing it. Okay, so that's step one. While that's happening, you could take then your butter that you had, as well as your icing sugar, and you could start adding that on the side in your mixer. So if it's a hand mixer, that means you physically now need to step away a little bit and just get that going. Okay. So that method is called creaming. And all you want to do is to mix the two items together until it's a nice, fine, fluffy mixture. And you'll see it comes together and sort of forms like a creamy looking mixture. Sometimes what happens is that you've got a little ratio imbalance, and you could always balance that out by either adding a little bit butter or whatever it is that you're finding is the imbalance. Once this is melted and the two products have also creamed to the side, you are going to add the chocolate mixture into the powder mixture or the creamed mixture. So all you're going to do is treacle it in. And by treacle, we just mean you're going to slowly pour it in as it's mixing, just so that everything picks up and blends nicely. Once it's all together, it's going to look a little, like that. And that's how you know I've got the right balance. From here, you now decide. If you have a flavor that you want to put into this, in our case, we've decided to go with pumpkin for Halloween. So if you've got a flavor you want to put into this, this is the point at which you will pop that flavor in. We also mentioned we had a licorice flavor, and how we did that was to just get some actual licorice, a little bit of water, and we kind of heated that up to create an essence. So from that essence, you are able to let it cool down a little bit and then add it into your butter mixture. The thing is, it looks a bit weird in the beginning, so just balance the color. And we did mention how we covered it up with the little hundreds and thousands so that the look of it wasn't so unappealing. But it tastes absolutely amazing. We also did a candy floss version where you just had the normal butter mixture, and then we just took some candy floss and kind of fluffed it around the sides of the macaron. Alrighty, and then over here is what I'm going to use, which is what Chef Bernice did a little earlier, which is the tube with the color that we did a little earlier. Okay, and I'm going to sandwich them with the butter, the pumpkin, and the butternut, if that's the one you're using, mixture, and sandwich those two items together. Okay, we also have other shells. Okay, so if you wanted to achieve a black color, right? Chef Bernice, how did you achieve the black color? Activated.
Yes, I activated it by using activated charcoal, which you will also get in your health sections. And a while ago, it was a big trend to do everything charcoal based.
Yes.
But please don't go and take your coals from the fire and grind it up and add it. It's not the same thing, please. You're not going to have the same effect as all. So you just add, again, like I added my color, so you would add your tablespoon of the activated charcoal powder into the meringue mixture, and you would mix it through until you get either black or like charcoal color. And then what I did is I have added some neon powder, so you dust it on before it rests for the 30 minutes. And then once it's done, it kind of has this effect. And so the cool thing about this neon powder is, should I put it under neon light in the dark, it actually illuminates.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to use the same filling for both just to show you. Okay, so with this, what you want to avoid, and I just want to bring this closer to you all, you want to avoid putting this filling all the way to the edges, because you're still going to sandwich it and kind of squish it to make it fit properly. And again, we've done some matching. You always want to see that you find matching sizes. So here are my two matching sizes. Awesome. Right. And with piping, Chef Bernice showed you a little trick of how to hold and everything. And we're just going to do the same thing where we pipe right in the middle until you get that much.
Yes. What happens if you put more?
Okay, so I'm going to do an example of more quickly. What happens if I put a little too much?
Yes.
All right, so let's just go
Because, you
crazy.
know, this filling is so good.
It's so good.
You kind of want to go more. And I know some of our viewers are going to go like, how much is too much?
That's what's going to happen. All right, so as you're trying to squish and put it together, it's kind of just going to mush to the side, and you don't really want that. Appearance-wise, it won't look so great. So now let's do the way. Let's match just quickly. There we go. So now you put to the center, just enough. As you sandwich, press, twisty, until you get it exactly where you want it. And there you go. So if you wanted to do, did you show them the, can you just grab that one again? Alrighty, no problem. What are we doing? Awesome. So for the sprinkles where we covered up the licorice color, we did a little more filling because this time you actually wanted to push outward. Okay, so you're going to put this here, a little bit more filling. Then you're going to sandwich. Squeeze it just ever so slightly to pop to the edges, just like that. And then in your hundreds of thousands or anything else you have, Oreos, anything like that that you've crushed up, you're just going to run it in there until...
Show you a nice visual, a
boom.
little bit nice closer.
All right.
So that you can see, yay, can you see that awesome little sprinkle there, all
Awesome.
that color? So it covers up the licorice flavor.
Right. And the candy floss.
Yes.
Right. So we'll just use the same filling again. A little bit more because you do want it to stick out a little so it grips onto the candy floss. Again, we do a little squeeze, a little twist. Okay, that one's a tiny one.
Okay,
there
so is
we
it
go.
important to match them up?
Very important. I just want to show them what happened here with these two. The sizing does not work out very well. Okay.
So it kind of looks lopsy.
It looks lopsy. Okay. So let's now match it again. So we do the same thing, twisty. All right, let's just do that.
And then should we want to add the candy floss?
Yes.
What do we do then?
Okay. So what we did yesterday was to pull it a little bit. Just kind of fluff it a little bit. Okay. So you could do just sticking it onto the sides where that filling is sticking out. Okay. Let's just grab a different color now. Some blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a kid's dream.
This is candy floss land. It's really
awesome. And this
awesome.
reminds me very much of Halloween. Immediately when you go to all the fairs, you see people with these big bunches of candy floss.
100%.
Pumpkins and yeah.
Okay, so let's just do that last little piece. Yes.
And so you can put as much or as little. You can choose to put it on the outside, or you can put it inside as a filling before you sandwich it together.
Yeah, so if you decided to do it inside, you would just take a cookie cutter or anything similar and then cut to the size of your actual shell so that it fits, and maybe just a little protrusion so it sticks out and you can actually see it. And what you'll do is you'll pipe a little bit of the filling, then you'll put that color on, sandwich it again with a little more filling, sandwich it again, and that will stick out on the sides. So there's a couple of options you can do there. And it's all up to you, really. Whatever you would like to do, all up to you. So just to show you all the awesome finished products, there you go.
Chef, there was one question here from Moira, and Moira says that the egg size.
Yes.
So sometimes she buys eggs and they are different sizes, and so we had recommended that we use like a medium-sized egg. But sometimes the medium-sized egg
is like
one is
tiny.
A little bit bigger, yes. And so is there a recommendation in terms of making sure that you get the same size? So is there a measurement in milliliters?
Okay, so
grams?
In grams. Okay, so if we're talking about grams, we usually work with 51 grams for a large egg. So you could always use the weighting rather than using the actual sizing when you look at the egg. And that should help you to balance it out and get the right amount of egg.
You'll also find nowadays on the cartons, they will tell you more or less the weight of an egg. So the whole egg weighs about, like Chef Ayanda said now, for a large egg about 51 grams. So a medium size is about 43 grams. then you'll get smaller, and so you go. And that will be your indication of using more or less, give or take, the same size. I hope that answers your question.
I hope so too.
Right.
Right. Thank you so much.
So that will give us our examples. I hope that you enjoy your Halloween inspired, and then we want to just thank our sponsors from Checkers and Three Peaks. And then Chef Ayanda, thank you very much for assisting me. And have a great time.
Thank you. See you soon. Thank you so much.